The world has turned bearish on crypto, and with good reason. But what's about to happen should make you the most bullish you've ever been. For years, crypto has been a world of rugs, Ponzinomics, and hacks, and that's robbed trust in what should have been an alternate financial system. But above it all, one system remained solid, continued to prove reliable, and has continued to build trust. That's Bitcoin. And that trust in Bitcoin is what's continuing to drive the entire crypto market. But Bitcoin itself is extremely limited. And so all of the innovation has had to happen in less trusted or really untrusted environment. The goal of this show, Bitcoin Alpha, is not just to give you a view of where things are going and a bit of an insider's look into what's happening in the Bitcoin ecosystem, but also give you a sense of how you can be part of it, how you can invest in it, and how you can profit from it. The critical missing link has been the technical innovation that would allow Bitcoin to scale to serve the entire global user base, and at the same time to have the functionality so that it could become not just an alternate financial system, but the center of an entire decentralized digital world, the operating system for a decentralized Web3. In previous episodes, we spoke about how Bitcoin Layer 2 is changing everything. We spoke about some of the underlying technology that makes it possible. And today, for this episode, we have 3 of the leading projects and their founders talking about what they're doing over the coming months. This is a show about technology and where it's going, but also how to invest in that technology. And each of the projects that we've spoken to is a potential investable opportunity. First up is Louis Gutmann from StarkWare, perhaps the most significant company in the Ethereum space when it comes to researching and building ZK rollups. Now, they've just announced $1 million research investment to try and bring OPCat to Bitcoin. OPCat is a consensus chain, a soft fork that many people are currently proposing for Bitcoin, which would make it easier, among other things, to verify a type of ZK proof on Bitcoin. And so this is what StarkWare are pushing for. They're trying to get this change into Bitcoin. I'm somewhat skeptical of their ability to do so, but let's hear what they have to say. So StarkWare, their ticker is STRK, are now looking to enter or basically come home to the Bitcoin space. We're talking with Louis Gutmann, head of strategy. One of the questions I have is I've seen StarkWare be interested and involved in the Bitcoin space for a while. You know, you've already built out on Ethereum. Ethereum is a natural place to build out ZK and rollups. Why Bitcoin?
There's obvious business reason, which is Bitcoin is $1 trillion asset, and today its ability both to scale and to be used in a self-custodial way is very limited. There is very few things one can do on Bitcoin today, as opposed to what one can do on Ethereum or on the L2s on Ethereum. Business-wise, the idea is just to bring those ability to the most valuable asset class in the space.
You see as the primary value here. Is it primarily about scaling Bitcoin transactions, or is it about bringing new functionality to what you can do with it?
Do we want to scale Bitcoin? We do. We do want to allow more transactions and more transfers and allow people to pay their coffee with. Of course, that's what ideally, that's what people want to do, if that's what they want to do. But now, honestly, I think the most interesting use cases is to allow self-custodial borrowing versus the Bitcoin as an asset class. To borrow dollars against my Bitcoin allow me to pay my day-to-day while seeing the value of this asset class depreciate is something I would go for.
Why the focus on OPCat?
If the Bitcoin community was to adopt CAT as a next soft fork, then we know that we could settle Stark proof on Bitcoin tomorrow. CAT does not only help Stark, it helps any solution that has appeared in the last year and a half. With CAT, BitVM simplified tremendously.
You've offered $1 million in research grants to research OPCat. What is the timeline from your perspective to going from where we are now to implementing OPCat to getting rollups on Bitcoin?
A signaling by December. I would be crazy optimistic. But we have a year and a half conversation upcoming. We just need this process to start. And if it doesn't start within a year and a half from now, I'm doubtful that it will ever start. This is just my personal opinion. It doesn't involve neither StarkWare nor anyone else. It's just how we perceive things, and that could be wrong.
What do you think is going to be the first important use case of ZK rollups on Bitcoin?
Shorting dollars.
After rollups are launched on Bitcoin, how long before more than 50% of transactions are happening on rollups?
I would argue that 3 TPS would be achieved after a full rollup being deployed, which is after a year, and probably faster.
And how long before 10x?
Those things are exponential. So I would say 3 months later.
So StarkWare are bullish on OPCat, but not all projects believe we even need OPCat. Next up, we have Alexei, CEO and founder of Bob, Build on Bitcoin. Now, what's unique about Build on Bitcoin is their approach. They are currently a rollup on Ethereum, and they're trying to evolve to become a rollup to both chains with the security of both chains, and perhaps even more importantly, to act as a gateway for users and liquidity to flow from the Ethereum ecosystem into the Bitcoin ecosystem. So Alexei, thank you for joining us. What makes Bob stand out? Why should users choose Bob? Why should developers choose Bob?
Bob is unique in its hybrid design. And the design was chosen not because hybrid is cool, but because we have a pragmatic approach. We need to make sure that we get builders on Bitcoin to market very fast. Now, if you want to compete with Ethereum layer 2, you can't start down here and reinvent the wheel on everything. You need to start with the same level of infra, best-in-class tooling, and then start to compete on things that ETH cannot do, like Bitcoin products. The builder, you get to benefit from best-in-class infrastructure, tooling, financial integrations, and you get access to liquidity.
Right now, Bob is running a points program called the Spice program. It's too late for people to join and participate?
Not at all. The 5 Points program is an ecosystem growth program. The goal is to get more people to experiment with Bob applications, give them a chance to highlight their new project, and also for users to join in early, become core members of the community, participate in quests, in challenges, benefit from being a very early builder on Bitcoin or user.
Right now, like over the next month or two, is the thing you're most excited about happening in Bob and the Bob ecosystem?
Bob is, I think, one of the fastest growing ecosystems, definitely the Bitcoin layer 2 space. With over 40 projects, we have Bob Gateway, which is the first ever one-click on-ramp from Bitcoin to a Bitcoin layer 2. So no matter what Bitcoin version you're using on Bob, you just can go from Bitcoin to Bob and start using your Bitcoin in whatever app you like. And the most exciting thing for me is really getting the Bitcoin UX to one click. So the fewer clicks your users have to do, whether they're on Bitcoin, on Ethereum, on an exchange, the better. And that's what we're working towards with teams. And it should be fast, efficient. Bitcoin never had this before, right? If you wanted to have a good user experience on Bitcoin, you'd have to go to an exchange. And now we actually can give you this experience in a decentralized manner.
Now, Bob is a roll-up as part of the OP stack to Ethereum. What makes it a Bitcoin layer 2, and does it need to evolve into that?
So that's always a very good question. I think it's important to state that if you look from a technical perspective, then no Bitcoin layer 2 exists today yet apart from Lightning. For Bob to become a Bitcoin layer 2, we need to be able to settle back to Bitcoin. Means user deposits Bitcoin into Bob and can always get it out. That's the requirement.
When do you expect we'll see the first Bitcoin layer 2s actually in existence?
I think 25 earliest, simply because these technologies are not ready for production yet.
So what's the roadmap for Bob to turn into a Bitcoin layer 2?
So we are launching in 3 phases. Phase 1, ETH rollup connected to Ethereum, inheriting ETH security, onboarding ETH users into the Bitcoin ecosystem, making it super easy for them. Phase 2 is getting proof of work. So now Bob's secured by Ethereum, being an Ethereum rollup using prop proofs, and secured by Bitcoin's proof of work, using something called merge mining, where miners mine on Bitcoin and at the same time use the proof of work to sign off all the transactions and the blocks on Bob. Phase 3, using BitVM and the proper of the mechanism directly on Bitcoin, will be able to allow users to have this guaranteed exit. You put your Bitcoin in, you can get your Bitcoin out.
What's your view on OPCat? Is it a necessary step?
OPCat is interesting. It used to be in the code base. It's a very simple opcode, but it unlocks the potential to actually have a ZK verifier on Bitcoin. We need to better understand what are the risks, what are the opportunities before pushing for a fork. I think it got enough attention. Capital is now flowing in with StarkWare opening $1 million bounty. And I think, to be fair, that's great. And it's cool actually to see them also move into this hybrid narrative following Bob to say, well, okay, why not connect both Bitcoin and Ethereum? So that is also strong validation for really uniting all ecosystems.
When would that happen, and how long would it actually take to get OPCat integrated into Bitcoin Core?
If we have consensus today, earliest 6 months. Like it won't happen from today to tomorrow. It's a $1 trillion system. You don't push upgrades very quickly. That might have a massive impact. But hopefully you might have a decision by the end of this year. That would be great. Okay, is everyone aligned or not?
What would be the first breakout product, right? The first new use case, which is enabled by Bitcoin Layer 2s?
Microloans, small amounts, and just start using it. Borrow against Bitcoin and buy things with it without actually having to sell it every single time.
Hopefully, a whole bunch of people will discover Bob because of this interview. And thanks for joining. So we have Charlie Hu, CEO and founder of BitLayer. BitLayer are interesting in a number of ways. They're one of the leading serious projects in terms of TVL and user base that is actively building towards being a Bitcoin Layer 2. Now, in addition to that, Charlie has unique insights into how the Bitcoin economy in China right now in many ways is leading and is very different from what we're seeing in the West.
The whole space needs trust minimized bridge to basically unlock more liquidity in the native Bitcoin layer 1, right, to tap into and then bridging to the layer 2. And then they can participate in all kinds of liquidity farming, liquidity provision, and so on. Right now, we are still tipping the iceberg.
So it sounds to me, reading between the lines, is that in the very near future, there's going to be a lot of opportunities to earn yield on Bitcoin, and that you want to position BitLayer to be the chain where people can take these sort of wrapped, liquid, staked Bitcoin and use them in different DeFi platforms.
Bitcoin was never a yield-bearing asset, right? Which was okay for a lot of the OGs, including you and probably a lot of other friends. When people actually see, there's a possibility of sort of decentralized route to access to native yield, we don't need to sell our Bitcoin. We can tap into yield opportunities. Obviously, there's risks involved. When the risk can be justified with the yield, with the APY, I think certain users will tap into that. We try to be one of the go-to platform that could deliver a big suite of all kinds of on-chain financial products for different type of users.
For Chinese traders, how important is regulation?
Yeah, that's a great question. They don't have access to all these kind of platform because they can't pass the KYC. Unfortunately, in the modern finance world, in the Web2 world, it's about who you are, not about how much money you have and how you want to behave in the market. It's actually about who you are. If you can't pass KYC, you have no access to that. Not everybody have access to the banking system and the modern finance.
Very significant number of Bitcoins move on to chains like Merlin. A lot of these funds seem to be coming from Chinese whales.
Right.
Well, one of the things we try to do in this show is give people the insiders' understanding of what actually is happening. So what does the Chinese Bitcoin market look like? How is it different from the Western market?
Great question. China, before the crypto ban happened in 2021, it had almost 70% of entire Bitcoin computation power in the world. So the government decided to completely shut down a lot of Bitcoin mining farms. Some of them basically had almost free electricity because of the hydropowers. Big mistake Chinese government made was decide to shut down because certain corruption things happened. They realized they couldn't really stop the funds moving around in Bitcoin network. But what happened is basically all the miner company, all the big whale decided to move outside of China. So those people that been mining and hodling Bitcoin, for some reason, some of them decided to getting more and more involved in Bitcoin ecosystem, like as an ecosystem. They never had an ecosystem, right? If we consider Ordinals was kind of the beginning of the Bitcoin ecosystem, that was the time they actually started learning as well. Like, okay, what is this thing? Like, you are actually creating new assets, even all kinds of shitcoins on Bitcoin, right? What does it even mean? What is Bitcoin NFTs? In the beginning, they were kind of naysayers, just like a Michael Saylor. And now they're all talking about, all right, you guys can actually generate more additional fees for us. We are actually the benefiter. That's interesting. Tell me more about it.
You think a big driver is the fact that this kind of layer 2 DeFi and Ordinals ecosystem activity helps increase the miner revenue through more transaction fees.
They start learning.
There was a lot of excitement around Ordinals.
Mm-hmm.
There was excitement around the BRC20s. People expected Runes to be at least as exciting as BRC20s. Why do you think that Runes has not achieved what people were expecting?
There's a lot of other distraction in the space, which you can allocate your time, your liquidity into like AI, deeping, the list goes on, right? People have more choices, honestly, because there's like Solana meme coin season, base network. Like it's essentially creating all kinds of meme coin, right? Eventually, the centralized big exchange, even like Binance, will list it because so many holders, so many trading volume.
How is the chain currently secured? Are you guys expecting to rely on OPCAT as well?
We have a new innovation actually using their proof, but without actually requirement of OPCAT. Practically, I think based on the history, right? Taproot assets took almost 4 years, right, to approve. It's not going to happen in the next, let's say, 6 months, even 12 months.
My view is 2 years at the minimum.
Okay. We think at least 1 year, right? Whereas Taproot Wizard guys, they're willing to even take a bet within 2024. But regardless, there's a lot of people who don't realize the benefits of OPCAT. They think a lot of vulnerabilities and security issues.
I've been hearing rumors that Chinese whales trying to avoid sending their funds to platforms that are Western-based and are focused only on Chinese or Asian-based. Do you think there's any truth to that?
Whoever can tap into West and East at the same time is going to win in this cycle. We're working very closely with Coinbase. We're exploring, to work with even other mining farm. No matter how much decentralized, trusted solution we're gonna deliver, there's still gonna be some social trust elements involved.
What is BitLayer's token, and what is its use, and when is it coming?
Great question. It's BTR. It's coming hopefully August or September. We plan for the TG there. It's used for governance, for staking. Validator needs to hold our token and become a validator. Then they can access to gas fee revenue sharing and a bunch of other stuff as a utility.
How can users today earn on BitLayer?
They can become a liquidity provider in Macaro and a few other DEXs. They can deploy their liquidity, putting it as a collateral in Bismarck and a few other CDP stablecoin protocols. And they can also tap into the liquidity pool in lending, like Avalon Finance and a few others that have quite a lot of TVL already.
What is the current TVL on BitLayer?
500 million.
What is the consensus mechanism currently securing BitLayer?
Right now, it's just a dedicated group of federation that are we working and collectively running the nodes and validator.
Now, you are one of many projects that are currently working on building near trustless or trustless bridging to Bitcoin. What do you think is the leading technology, and sort of what is your contribution?
So 3 solutions: layer 1 verification with BVM, trust minimized bridge with DLC at BVM, and the layered virtual machine to become multiple VM compatible.
What is going to make BitLayer stand out?
Collectively, we build a good retention of builders and also communities. Eventually, the ecosystem with most meaningful applications and a good community to stick around gonna win.
All right, Charlie, anything you would like to cover?
I would talk about something which is alpha, but I can share already. It's official. BitLayer, in the next phase of ecosystem, we are exploring some institutional adoption, because there's one thing we know: Bitcoin has been somehow legalized, right? With the ETF, a lot of TradeFi people are actually purchasing Bitcoin through the ETF approach. I have a big feeling that's going to happen just the same way like in 2021. All these big corporates like Disney, DBS Bank, Starbucks, doing all kinds of metaverse strategy.
Awesome. Charlie, this really was great. Thank you very much for your time, Charlie. So in the description, all of the projects named, you'll be able to find a link to them. And with StarkWare, there's already a token available. With BitLayer, there's a token launching soon. And with Bob, there's currently a points program which would probably give you access to the token before anyone else. In all 3 of these cases, BitLayer and Bob in particular, there's an opportunity to get involved and become aware before most people are aware not just of these projects, but of the fact that they are part of a major change that is soon coming to Bitcoin, that is going to change Bitcoin, change crypto, and change our economy as a whole. In future episodes, we'll continue to dive deep into the technology that is changing Bitcoin, talk to the investors who are on the inside track of investing in this space, and in particular, talk to the founders, researchers, and builders who are making it all happen.